Hi everyone, it's Jama Malmi. Welcome to the Creative Design Team's collaboration, Stamping on Layouts. You are in for a treat with lots of ideas for stamping on your layouts, and today I'm going to show you how I'm fitting 10 photos on my 2-page layout. I'm using this Wander paper collection, which is just stunning. I've had it out for a couple of months now and have been waiting to use it with these pictures, as well as many more that I have because we love the outdoors and hiking. So I'm really excited to put this together. I've also got the coordinating cardstock and some coordinating thin chipboard pieces that I'll use a little bit of. And then there are also coordinating pocket cards. And these are really fun. I'm going to show you at the end how I'm going to use 2 of these to add to the flaps that are going to house extra layouts. So here's just a little flip through some of those. And then I'm also using this layout from Close to My Heart's Make It From Your Heart sketchbook. This is volume 5, and I love this book because it shows you inspiration ideas and it tells you exactly what sizes to cut your pieces of paper to make the layout shown. I love to use this as a jumping off point and then make the layout my own. So I cut the strips at 1 3/4 as it told me to, and then I realized I'm going to want them longer than it told me. So some I had already cut, some I didn't. So you're going to see how I fixed that. Now I am using some of the photos that I chose, but I'm not putting them all down yet. I'm leaving out 3 because I'm going to be adding them later. I put them directly onto the paper and then decided they needed a white mat to stand out more. Now here's the first tip on how to make those strips longer. I just chopped it across, and since the middle's not going to show, it's going to stick out the bottom and you'll never know. I put all of these photos on the white mats and then onto a larger mat of Sapphire, and I felt that that really helped ground the photos. Now here is where I'm going to make all of these strips a little bit longer and dovetail them. And in order to make the dovetails the same on every strip, I just took one of the strips that I had already done and lined it up with the other ones, and then I just cut it so that it looked exactly the same. So I played around with the different patterns in this kit before I chose the patterns to use to make sure that I chose papers that were not going to compete with my photos, because I have a lot of green and blue and bright colors in these photos, and the sage green is pretty light and it's not the same green as in my photos. So I used it sparingly because I really wanted that bright, vibrant green to stand out. And I used sort of more earthy colors. I stayed away from a lot of yellow and orange because I thought that would have taken away from the photos. I did use a little bit of the paprika, so across the top, and then the embellishments I'll pull in later, and that really helps draw the eye across the page, as you'll see in a bit. So since this collaboration is all about stamping on layouts, here is my first stamping. I took 2 of the stamps from the Take a Hike stamp set, which is one of my favorites, and I have hardly used it. But I did also use it a little bit in one of the last layouts I did, which was also a layout on stamping on your layouts, 8 ways to stamp on your layouts, using a lot of these same stamps. So I'll link to that here, and I'll also put it in the description below. But I hadn't used these stamps yet. So I've got a little mountain peak stamped on the blue cardstock on the right, and then I've got sort of a hill with a sun peeking out from the cardstock, the blue cardstock on the left. And now here on the little tails that are going to stick out at the bottom of the page, I have this border stamp that looks like little feet paths, or whatever you want to call them, feet tracks. And it stamped them at a diagonal to make sort of a little striped pattern there. Now you saw a little bit of earlier, but I'm showing you how I'm lining everything up to make sure that it is straight. I'm using my Versamat, and I love using these black Versamats when I'm scrapbooking because it's really easy to line all of your papers up. It really makes my life easier. And so I'm using that along with a T-square ruler, and I can tell that I want my edge pieces 1 inch in and 1 inch down. And so I can just look at the markings on the side of the Versamat and make sure that I'm even on both sides and from top to bottom as well. So now I'm pulling in the stamp set that goes with this Wander collection. It's the Wander Scrapbooking stamp set, and I love this big nature stamp. And I also used this in the last layout that I used, but I'm going to be treating it a little bit different this time. I've seen some other people do this, and I just thought it was so cool. I stamped it in a bunch of different colors, and I wasn't sure exactly which ones I was going to use. I ended up only using the Sapphire, which is this one here, and the Glacier blue in the end, but I cut a bunch of them out just to play around and see, and I didn't keep all that in the video, but I've got those laid out there, and I put the rest here in my stamp envelopes so that they are safe for next time. They were getting a little bit lost right on the layout, so I decided to put them on some white cardstock, and that strip wasn't quite long enough, so I cut another strip, and now I am stamping out in, which is a smaller little word stamp, 2 stamps actually, and then nature. And then I'm going to trim that off where I need it, and then dovetail both ends so it looks sort of like a banner going across the center of the page. And then I'm going to put nature going across there, and I popped each one of those up onto foam squares. So just to recap, I cut out each individual letter from that nature stamp, which didn't really take too long. It was a bit of fussy cutting, but they're really simple cuts, so it really wasn't too bad. And then I put some foam tape, and I just cut the foam squares into little strips to put them behind each letter, and it gives it some really nice dimension. And then to make it pop off the page even more, I added some inking in Glacier ink going around the edge of that little banner. So I'm going to put that right about there. And now I'm going to start pulling in some of those chipboard pieces. This is one of the frames that I actually cut in half at a diagonal, and then I cut another little piece off too to save for later. So I'm going to make sure that none of that's hidden, and I'm getting the most use out of it that I can. And then I stamped a bunch of other images from these 2 stamp sets. So this is the Take a Hike stamp set. I stamped the footprint in a couple of colors, and because I wasn't sure which I wanted to go with, and I ended up with charcoal. And then that Always Up for Adventure, something like that. I can't read it exactly right now, but I had that left over from my last layout, and then it ends up not making it on the page, but you'll see why in a little bit. I actually made a really, really big goof on this page, and I kept it in. Do you guys ever make a goof and you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just did that? That's what happened. And the funny thing is my husband had come in while I was working on it, and I explained to him what I was doing. I'm like, oh, look, I'm adding all of these extra pictures. They're going to go right here. And then I totally goofed on what I needed to do to make sure I could add them correctly. So you'll see that in a minute. But I'm just playing around with all of those stamped images. I love using my stamps and then cutting them out. Some of them have thin cuts, and then some of them I fussy cut, and then just use them as embellishments to complement these stickers that I'm using. So I decided to use this really cool water bottle, and I took the stick off of it by using my anti-static powder bag so I could kind of place it where I wanted it. Wanted to make sure that that orange piece over on the right was showing enough. And then I added this cool little geotag that's yellow. So then I was just pointing, there's sort of a visual triangle yellow, the geotag, the frame in the middle, and then the sun on the water bottle. And then I put another little tiny plus sign over on the right as well. And then we've also got in those same spots the orange. So it's really drawing the eye around with just those few little pops of the bright colors, the yellow and orange. And then of course you have the orange going across the top that helps to ground it and draw your eye across as well. And then my daughter has on some sort of bright coral orange shorts, and I have on a like fluorescent orange sunglasses. So even though they're not exactly the same color orange as the paprika, in fact they're very different, all three oranges, but I think that it all looks cohesive enough to work together and draw your eye across. So this inhale exhale sticker I thought was cool. I really liked it there. I was thinking I was pretty close to being done here on this layout. And then after I got everything in place, well, let's see, after I did the shimmer brush, I splattered some charcoal shimmer around, which is something I just can't help but do. And here I am just pausing looking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. So I'm going to be adding flip flaps to these pages. And if you're familiar with those, they're going to cover anything that's overlapping these photos. So now I have to go back, and luckily I didn't use liquid glue on all of these embellishments. Some of them I did, but it ended up being okay because I used them mostly on the right, which is not going to be covered by a flip flap. So I had to take everything off. I had to move my title, my nature title, down, which I don't think looks as good aesthetically, but when the flip flaps are on, which you'll see in a bit, it looks fine because the flip flaps are laying there right above it. Had to move the footprint over, had to just kind of shuffle everything around and make sure that they are not covering the photos. And this adventure icon just didn't have a place anymore. So I added this little backpack. I needed something smaller. I added that cute little backpack, and that ended up working. So here is a close-up of how that turned out, and then in a moment I'm going to show you how I'm adding the flip-flaps with the 3 additional photos, as well as a decorative pocket card and a journaling spot. So this was super fun to do, and let's go ahead and look at how you add the flip-flaps. So I've already got my pages in the page protectors, and here are the 4x6 flip-flaps with the top that just folds over. So I'm going to put my first photo in there, the 4x6 photo, and I'm just putting one on this side, and that'll go right there over that left photo. And then I'm going to add these 2 photos to the next flip flap. And when you flip the flap up, one of the photos has to be upside down. See that? So you need to make sure that when you're stacking, it's easiest to put 2 in at the same time. And so you need to make sure one of them is upside down so that when you flip it up, it's right side up. So you're just going to fold that little flap back, remove the adhesive strip, and press it down, and then open it and press it and make sure that it's secure. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, but first I'm going to choose a pocket card. So I don't have another photo to use, so I'm choosing one of these little pocket cards as a little sort of another title, I guess, that you see when you lift up that little flap. And just going through those pocket cards and deciding which one I like, and at the same time I'm going to decide which one I want over on this right side. And I wasn't sure if I wanted the journaling spot on the right or the left. I decided I liked this horizontal one on the right, and then the adventure seeker over on the left. So that's what I'm going to go with. And then over on the right, I'm going to have my journaling. So with the pocket cards from Close to My Heart, they're called Picture My Life cards. There's the same on the front and the back, except one is the landscape orientation, one is portrait orientation, and they usually have slightly different colors. So they're similar but a little different. Here's a look at all of the flip-flaps, how they open and show more photos. So such a fun and interactive way to get extra photos on your layouts. I just love the flip-flaps, and I will link them down below if you're interested in them. Here are some close-ups so you can see all of that stamping detail a little bit better and hopefully appreciate it a little bit more. It's hard to see some of that in the process video. But I hope that you picked up an idea or two, and be sure to check out the rest of the creative design team. There are already 3 videos out and some more to come, so I will link all of them down in the description below. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. I hope you have a wonderful day.